Welcome back. 13 before the hour now. This is a very intense time on Capitol Hill. There's a leadership scramble on the GOP side, and current but outgoing Speaker John Boehner says he's committed to making his final 4 weeks in office very productive. Politico congressional editor Benton Ives joins us now with more on this. Thanks very much for swinging by. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
What an interesting period. I mean, let's begin with the leadership scramble on the Republican side. We think that Kevin McCarthy of California is likely to be the new speaker. That is not sewed down quite yet. Very interesting developments there in just the last few hours, basically. And the competition for the second and third spots, those seem really up for grabs.
Yeah, we think that Kevin McCarthy is likely to ascend as the new speaker effectively later this week. Although, again, yeah, that race has gotten a little tighter than we were expecting. You know, there's some conservative unrest. I think a lot of conservatives in the House view Kevin as more of the same, and since they pushed Boehner out effectively, they're not excited about that. For Majority Leader, though, and for Whip, the race is wide open, and especially wide open after Boehner decided to basically punt those elections to some future date, TBD, which could even be, well, I don't know, even early next year. It could could drag on for months, which is a problem for the House, because then you're having a leadership in flux makes doing the day-to-day work even more difficult.
Imagine being a new speaker and not having the support team that any speaker needs to be successful, and you don't have it. That's a real test under any separate from party considerations completely notwithstanding. That's big time.
Absolutely. No, that's a sign of real turmoil, and it's something that they're trying to avoid. On the other hand, they're not sure that they have the conservative unrest has extended so deep into the conference, it's not clear that the current candidates for Majority Leader or Whip could win. That's the issue.
The best case scenario, it seems, again, I'm an outsider, but it seems like if it's McCarthy and Jason Chaffetz
he's a long shot challenger for Speaker, unlikely to win.
Long shot challenger, I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that descriptor.
Yeah.
The best case scenario is a mix, right? It's got to be a balance with some interpersonal relationships to figure out a path forward. It won't be easy, but I don't see a plan B that's better.
No, yeah, that's exactly right. You have enough votes in, say, the House Freedom Caucus, which is this group of about 40, rock-ribbed conservatives. If they withhold their votes, then it's not clear that any of the sort of mainstream candidates can win their races for Majority Leader or Whip. So yeah, and all of this, of course, coincides with Congress heading into a very busy period where they really do have some must-pass agenda items on the table.
Must-pass, and I think even beyond that, I'm fascinated by John Boehner's assertion at one of his recent, one of the public pronouncements he made after announcing he was going to step down as Speaker and quit his seat and go back to Ohio, I guess, when he said, I want to clean the barn. I want to clear the barn for my successor. It's going to be fascinating to watch that goal, if you will, play out in the real world of negotiation with the White House and negotiation within the House chamber itself and, of course, across the Capitol with the Senate. To what extent are there issues where he'll take a bunch of Democratic votes if they're there, maybe some on the GOP side, maybe or maybe not a majority, and move stuff forward because it clears it off the desk?
I think this is a case where necessity is the mother of invention. He has right now a November 5th deadline to raise the nation's debt limit, which sounds arcane, but it's actually a pretty big deal. A breach of the debt limit could have serious consequences. I don't mean that in a political way, like it could have a real impact on markets. Lawmakers of both parties don't like that sort of thing. Boehner's last day is the end of October. So you have a tiny window when you might have a new speaker whose first task would be the most difficult vote you can ask Republicans to take. That's a very, very problematic thing. So on the one hand, Boehner might say, hey, maybe I'll try to get this through before I go. But that has a real risk. Members aren't, members know what's up. They'll know that, well, Boehner just jammed us down our throats. Say in this case, Kevin McCarthy tacitly agreed, right?
Gotcha.
And it might contaminate his speakership. This is a very difficult transition to do with the kind of weighty issues they have. December 11th, then we have a government shutdown on the table again. We need to pass new spending law. Another very difficult vote for the GOP. It's going to be rough.
Kevin McCarthy's ill-advised comments where he clearly conflated the Benghazi committee, which presumably some lawmakers believe is an earnest not political effort to figure out why American diplomats died in Libya, and not a backdoor or side door effort to ding Hillary Clinton on her way to the presumably Democratic presidential nomination. His remarks were widely perceived. This wasn't a partisan reaction. They were widely perceived as this is the wrong thing to have said out loud. Is the damage on that big? Is it moderate? Is it kind of fleeting?
I think that's there are a variety of ways in which those comments will affect what's going on the Hill. On the one hand, I don't think it's going to deep six his candidacy for Speaker. You know, he's got a lot of sort of mainline Republican support. He may have issues otherwise, but those have to do with sort of core, long-standing disputes between the conservative wing and mainline GOP. I don't think the Benghazi comments alone will do it. However, they have given Clinton a lot of new ammunition, especially ahead of her super high-stakes testimony on the Hill in just a couple weeks, where she's now going to have a free pass to take shot after shot at Republicans, saying, "Hey, your speaker in waiting tacitly, effectively admitted, I say, that this was a political attack on me. This is all a farce. This is all a circus," and that's going to be a real problem for the GOP, especially for Trey Gowdy, who's the chair of the special committee, who's really done yeoman's work trying to stay above the political fray, or at least to give the appearance of staying above the political fray.
And it's a fundraising bonanza, too, potentially, you would think.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Benton Ives is congressional editor for Politico, and we're grateful to you for stopping by. Lots going on. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Good to have you with us as always. We'll step aside. We're back, though, with a program note right after this.